right, we're live. We're upright. We're not sideways. Hey, folks. Welcome to the third voiceover livecast. It's episode 3. I'm going to wait till some people will get here, which should be momentarily. We'll see. Let's see. Today we're going to narrate something from Jurassic Island, a book I did going on a year and a half ago, so it was one of my earlier ones. Oh, there we go. Hey, Beth Ann. You're the first one, I think. Oh, Lori, there you are. You're number 2. You didn't get first. That still doesn't mean much, but I mean, there's no prizes. But someone just beat you to it. Oh, man. Hi. So, obviously, I'm in my soundproof, not exactly proof, but my sound booth. Hey, Lisa. It's a cozy little booth. Not really, technically there's room for 2 people, but, you know, you'd have to be really cozy. A slacker. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll just wait. Just a couple minutes. I started talking a little bit. Nobody was here. Of course, once this is saved and out there, then there's no context to it. Sure, I'll get some rowdies in here. Hopefully. That's exactly who I was thinking of. Tim Dietrich. Wondering if you're going to be at work. Not working. I don't know what you're doing. If you're listening to me, you're not getting a whole lot done. So, alright, I'll go ahead and kind of get you all up to date. Okay, so I've been in this big stretch of audiobooks where I got contacted by 4 different authors, kind of out of the blue back in January. So I've been working on books for about 3 or 4 weeks now. Hey, G. So the first 3 were romantic type stuff that my pseudonym is taking care of. It's not really me. And I just submitted the 3rd one last night to be reviewed, so we'll see how that goes. I've got one out that's waiting to be in production. So the next one is actually by the author that wrote the Zion series, the religious cult one that I narrated a little bit from last time. Lisa, no, this is a Thursday. I actually take, Thursday is kind of a family night where I go over to my parents and have dinner and play video games with my dad. Been doing that for about 18 years. So Thursdays are kind of off limits for me as far as playing gigs and that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm going to get started on this next book, which is very tame in comparison to what I've been doing lately. Very family friendly. It's a young adult kind of a thing, and it's short, so I actually may be able to get it done within about a week. Looking at, I don't know, 12 to 14 hours of actual work on it. And then after that is a serial killer kind of thing, a little bit longer, and that'll be fun. And then I thought I was going to have a break, but I got contacted by another author who wants to do a 7-book series, and as well as have me do the video trailers for the books, which is kind of neat. So we're trying to work out the details on that. There's a lot of moving parts and contracts and things that have to be worked out, but I'd be up for it. And that's going to be a romance too, but it looks like it's fairly tame, so I would probably use my pseudonym for it just to be consistent, but I don't know, if there's really nothing to it that would embarrass my mother, you know, maybe it'll be a Rick Barr thing. Who knows? Hey, Mike. So that's kind of the updates on what's happening there. Just staying really busy, getting a lot done. So we're gonna read from Jurassic Island. It's a book about dinosaurs on an island. It's a pretty short book, and it's one that I did about a year and a half ago, and it was one of my first books, like maybe the 4th or 5th one I did, so it's kind of rough. I know that with voiceovers as well as music, I think we kind of hate to hear ourselves. We're always improving, at least to our own ears and eyes, so listening to our previous work is usually not something I know that I tend to do. So I'm just going to read from a part of this. It's kind of an action-packed part. And again, I'm not really recording anything, so if I mess up, I just kind of let it go. Don't worry about it too much. All right. We'll just do a little bit of this, and then I'll come back, and if you have questions, let me know. Chapter 7. Colt felt guilty at the surge of excitement that passed through him as he saw that enormous fin. Even when more of the shark surfaced from the water as it opened its enormous mouth, the fear that Colt knew he should be feeling was dwarfed by the sheer awe of what he was seeing. Those emotions quickly shifted place when the shark hit the second boat. Right away, someone fell overboard, hitting the water with a little shriek. The boat made a crunching noise as the shark hit it when it opened its mouth along the backside of the boat. Colt was able to get a much better idea of the size. My text is way too big. Hang on just a second. What a goof up. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. Okay. It's better now. He'd heard murmurs and read articles about the megalodon, a shark that was supposed to have existed around the time of the dinosaurs. It was supposed to have been massive, easily 3 times the size of a standard great white. Colt felt certain that they were all witnessing one, alive and well, as it attacked the back of the second boat with a frenzy. Megalodon, someone whispered beside him. Colt turned and saw that it was Joseph. No way, Leslie said, but her voice was thick with fear. It has to be, Joseph said. Have you ever seen a shark that big? He's right, Ken said. That's a beast, not a shark. Whatever the hell it is, Harvey said, we need to figure out what we can do to stop it. Even as she said this, there was another crashing noise from the other boat as the great shark tore into it. Already the back was splintered and torn. The motor was coughing, barely making a noise over the racket of the boat's destruction, the churning of the water, and everyone on that boat. As Colt watched, he saw a portly man sliding backward along the deck, trying to stay away from the cavernous mouth of the megalodon. In contrast, one of the shark's teeth was nearly as large as this man. It would slice him directly in half without any need to chew. Are there any weapons on this boat? Colt asked. He had suddenly come to the realization that once the megalodon had chewed its way through that second boat, it would likely be heading this way to do the same thing. Joseph yelled up to the driver, and the driver yelled back. He says there's a harpoon gun, a flare gun, and a pistol. Liu stepped forward, speaking for the first time since we'd spied the shark. He looked totally unfazed at the sight of it, and Colt was very glad that Liu was on his boat. Give them to me, he said. Joseph nodded and scrambled quickly back up the ladder and into the driver's little cabin. The driver had kicked their speed up, and Colt watched as the second boat grew further and further away. The screams still spilled from the boat, but there were less of them now. Colt watched in horror as a woman was pitched directly into the shark's mouth. The beast didn't even close its enormous mouth. The woman simply disappeared down its maw as it continued to shred the boat. There was little left of the boat now, just a fragment of the stern, the driver's cabin, and the front, which was now pointed into the air at a 70-degree angle. Colt saw where one of the passengers had jumped into the water and was now paddling furiously to their boat. His eyes were wide with fear, but he wasn't looking behind him. Colt started to look around for some of the flotation devices to throw out to the man and selected an orange flotation ring that was hanging by the ladder to the driver's cabin. A long strip of white rope was tied to it, wrapped in cords. The swimmer was too far away for Colt to make the throw, so all he could do was wait. Meanwhile, Joseph came back down with a pistol and flare gun. He handed them to Lou and then ran to where Colt was standing. Joseph opened the lid of the small bench that ran to the back of the boat and pulled out a harpoon gun, along with a few buckets and assorted fishing gear. This was also a rather ancient-looking aluminum gas can in the tiny space. That, too, Liu said, pointing to the gas can. Joseph handed the harpoon gun and the gas can to Liu. Liu took a moment to closely examine the flare gun and the harpoon gun before dropping into a sitting position on the deck, His legs were crossed, and he went to work with an intense look of focus on his face. Colt watched as he took 5 bullets out of the pistol and then set to uncapping them. When they were uncapped, he then reached to the collar of his shirt and started tearing at it. "Knife?" he asked. To Colt's surprise, it was Ken Houston that stepped forward and pulled a pocket knife out of his front jeans pocket. He flipped the blade up and, at Liu's gesture, started sawing into the loose fabric that Liu had torn from his shirt. Across the water, the sound of gunfire sounded out. Everyone looked in that direction and saw that only the driver and one other terrified person remained. Another was in the water, taking the lead of the other swimmer and trying to make it to the other boat. On the remains of their boat, the driver had to hold on to a rail just to keep from tottering over into the water. He was firing a series of shots with a small handgun into the face of the shark. The shark seemed to not even feel it. And as it thrashed at the back of the boat, tearing it to shreds in order to get to the humans remaining on board, Colt saw its shape beneath the water and was again awed by what he was seeing. The shark was easily 50 feet long, probably more than that. The water made it hard to get a good estimate. Its body was wider than the boat it was devouring, and if it wanted to do so, it could probably just start swallowing the remnants of the boat whole. The thing was just too damn big. It was hard for Colt to get his mind around it. He looked back down to where Liu was working and was amazed at how fast and calm the man was able to work. From what Colt could tell, he had emptied the powder out of the bullets into the cloth he had torn from his shirt. He had then bound those with the fishing line from inside the bench Joseph had opened. He was now opening the gas can while holding his little pouch of gunpowder. "Is this safe?" Suzanne asked. "Safer than that monster over there," Ken said. He then added, Shit. It's, But he didn't need to finish. They looked over and saw that the Megalodon had made quick work of the boat. The driver was floating among the wreckage, but the shark didn't leave him there for long. The driver gave one sudden and violent shake, and the blood seemed to erupt over the surface of the water. Colt looked out over the 2 swimmers and saw right away that the one that had gone into the water late was not going to make it. The other one, however, was closer. Still, the fact that the driver had opened up the boat still made the distance between them far too much to work with. "Slow down!" Colt screamed. "We can save that guy." "Don't be foolish," Joseph said. "If we stop this boat, that thing will catch us." "It won't matter," Leslie said. "If it wants us, it's fast enough to catch us." "She's right," Liu said. "Besides, stopping the boat will give me a better shot." Joseph seemed to weigh his options, and then actually stamped his foot on the deck. "Damn," he said. He then yelled something up to the driver. When the driver yelled back, even though Colt did not understand the language, he could hear the disbelief in his voice. Joseph yelled something else, and the boat came to a slow idle. Colt looked back onto the water and saw that the shape of the Megalodon was now back under the water, its fin the only thing breaking the surface, and it was coming fast. There was no more than 20 feet between it and the swimmer that was farthest away. Colt guessed the poor guy had less than 5 seconds before he was in the shark's teeth. He wanted to look away, but couldn't. The Megalodon didn't even slow down to take him. The man was simply there one moment and gone the next, pulled violently under the water. "Who has good aim?" Liu asked. No one said anything at first, but Colt finally spoke up. "I'm decent," he said, "at a firing range." Liu handed Colt the flare gun. "This is no firing range. You miss, you die." "Awesome. I'll put the harpoon in its eye first. The moment the harpoon is there, you fire the flare. You don't have to hit the pouch with the powder dead on, but the closer it is, the more effective the blast will be." "Okay," Colt said, suddenly shaking. "Stop that," Liu said. "No shaking. You shake, you die." "Oh my God," Suzanne said slowly. She then kept repeating it to the point where it was nearly a chant. "Oh my God, oh my God." "Rope," Liu said. "I need rope." "Here," Leslie said, reaching into the bench and pulling out a small strand of old rotten rope. Leo looked to it, obviously dissatisfied. No good. It'll break. He looked around quickly, and Colt was beyond impressed with his poise. Finally, he looked to Ken Houston. He picked up the gas can and handed it to him. Ken looked at it as if it were a bomb, which Colt guessed it was, sort of in a way. Come, he said, motioning Colt and Ken to the edge of the boat. Colt handed the flotation ring to Leslie and pointed out the only man left swimming. He was about 30 yards away from the boat. The Megalodon was 50 yards or so further back. It was a lost cause. Colt was sure of that, but they had to at least try. Throw this out to him, and everyone pull as hard as you can. We have to try to save him. Leslie took the ring and started unfurling the rope at once. By the time Colt had turned to join Lou and Ken, she was arching over the back, ready to throw the ring into the water. Look, Lou said. With no rope, this is dangerous. It's not already? Colt asked. Ignoring him completely, Lou went on. He brought the harpoon gun up, the point trained at the shark. Ken, I need you to hold the gas can as still as you can, about 2 inches away from the tip of the harpoon. I'll count to 3. Just before I get to 3, let go of the can. Then Colt, like I said, don't even wait for the beast. Fire the flare as soon as the harpoon makes contact. Aim for the gas can. Ah, Jesus, Ken said. This is insane. Behind them, Leslie, Joseph, and Suzanne were screaming in encouragement and terror. They had started pulling the swimmer towards the boat, and he was getting closer, but so was the Megalodon. It'll probably come up just a bit before it gets to us, Leslie screamed to them. You won't have very long to pull this off. Ready? Lou asked. No, Ken said, but held the gas can up anyway. He held it as instructed, where it was barely off the tip of the harpoon. When Lou brought the harpoon gun down a bit, Ken also moved the gas can. Colt saw right away that Lou was aiming in front of the shark, anticipating where it might come up out of the water a bit. Beside them, the swimmer was nearly to the edge of the boat. He was weeping his thanks, and Colt worried that it might be premature. The shape of the shark shimmered through the water, now no more than 20 yards away. We're running out of time, Harvey said, his voice high-pitched with fear. Okay, Lou said. 1, 2. The top of the Megalodon's head breached the top of the water. A beat before Lou said 3, Ken released the gas can. Lou fired, the harpoon puncturing the gas can and sending Lou's shot about 3 inches to the right. Apparently, Lou had counted on this because the harpoon found its aim the moment the shark's eye was visible. It was an evil black circle surrounded by what looked to be impenetrable gray leather. It let out a roar as the harpoon landed, the noise nearly making Colt forget what he was supposed to be doing. Undaunted, the Megalodon kept coming, its head coming further out of the water. If it had been after the swimmer before, it was no longer interested. Now, it came for the charging boat. Flare! Lou screamed. Colt took aim and fired, the hissing of the flare escaping the gun like some weird music. He managed to strike the gas can just along the bottom, and at first, he thought his efforts had been wasted. The shark closed in on them. 10 feet. Then 5. There was an explosion and a roar of fire that came rushing towards the boat. Colt fell backwards, as did Lou and Ken. Beside them, someone screamed in pain. The boat was rocked with the explosion, the driver screaming in terror overhead. Colt scrambled to his feet as the boat shook, dreading that he might see the shark, still pissed and intent on destroying the boat. Instead, it was now 20 or so yards away, thrashing in the water. Its image grew darker and darker for a moment. Colt hoped this meant that it was retreating to calmer waters below. That actually worked? Harvey said, chuckling nervously. Oh my God, I don't believe it. Colt thought that he could actually hear the cogs turning in Harvey's head as he tried to figure out a way to properly write about this for an article that would surely get him boatloads, no pun intended, of cash. Help! Someone screamed from the very back of the boat. Colt turned and saw that their troubles weren't quite over. There were flames dancing around the deck, some of which had consumed the leg of the man they had rescued. Joseph was trying to roll the man around, trying to put the fire out. Leslie was removing her shirt and then slapped at the man's leg, diminishing the flames. Colt ran to the same bench that the harpoon gun had come out of and was thankful to find a fire extinguisher. It was small and looked as if it had come off the Titanic, but it would do the trick. He dashed forward, spraying the flames along the man's legs and then directing the stream to the flames along the back of the boat. When it was under control, Colt dropped the extinguisher and sank down into a sitting position. His nerves were rattled, and it was starting to sink in. All that they had seen in the last 15 minutes or so, plus the fact that they had now just escaped death by performing one of the most dangerous stunts he'd ever been a part of. Colt noticed that Leslie was slowly pulling her shirt back on, and he didn't feel too guilty by catching a glimpse of the athletic bra beneath. With the shirt back on, slightly singed along the bottom, she looked back out to where the shark had last been seen. "I think it's gone," she said. Everyone was quiet, looking out to the ocean as if willing this to be true. They all remained quiet, smelling the charred back of the boat as the driver resumed course. After a few moments, Joseph broke the silence and asked, "Can we all agree that we just fought off a megalodon?" he asked. "I'd agree with that," Leslie said. "Yeah," Colt agreed. Ken, Lou, Suzanne, and their newly rescued member with the burned leg said nothing. The next voice they heard was that of the driver, coming to the small door of his cabin and looking down on the group. He spoke directly to Joseph, and whatever he said got Joseph to his feet. "What is it?" Ken asked. "What did he say?" "Land," Joseph answered with a smile. "Land, straight ahead." All right, that's it for that. Why are you betting on me laughing? Who was posting all those little happy faces? Or laughing faces? So that was actually a little bit rougher. I guess, I don't know. My voice isn't in great shape this morning. So, oh, there's a nice heart. That was very nice. Whoever did that. So yeah, that's one pretty quick chapter. And it's an interesting little book. Well, thank you. Woo. Okay. Yeah, and so normally, like I've mentioned before, I use the punch and roll method. So anytime I make a mistake, like you heard, I would immediately stop, rewind, and just do it again. It makes the editing process far easier. Way easier. Yeah, Tim, I know. There was an athletic bra. There's no sex in this one. It's pretty much, I think it's only about 4 hours long. This is called Jurassic Island. You can find it on Audible if you'd like to check it out. I'll post a link to it as well. Yeah, so I may even have a code for you if you'd like a free code to check it out. Samantha. No, it wasn't. Believe me, that was nothing. You haven't heard the romance and other stuff that my pseudonym does. Talking about a sports bra? Nah. Thanks, Tim. Hey, Justin. You just missed the narration. You'll be able to see it a little bit later. I don't know how this all works, actually. So yeah, I would normally fix the mistakes right away. And then the editing process, it takes about the same amount of time to narrate as it does to edit. So it's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio on each. If I come out with an hour of good narration, it's taken me about maybe 2 to actually get it done. And then same with the editing. And that's just a matter of going through the recording and making the spacing correct, making sure there's no noises and transitions, things like that, and proofing, making sure that I've said words correctly. Because I know how to talk, but yeah, there's always little things to fix. Well, thank you, Samantha. Yeah, please do. I'm actually, these are on my Facebook channels, of course, but I'm also putting these out on YouTube. So if you you can subscribe to Rick Barr voiceovers on YouTube, and then the alternate weeks I do the music. So it's Rick Barr's solo musician, I believe, is that YouTube account. And that's where I just play guitar for you. What else do you want to know? I've got a few minutes. Ask me anything. Anything voiceover related. And again, this was an older book, and I don't like to listen to it anymore. There's no time anyway. I mean, I kind of know the process. So, but I listen to books quite a bit now. I never used to, but it's good research. No questions. All right. Let me scroll here a little bit. Oh, okay. So yeah, Samantha, I guess it's serious. There's a lot of people dying throughout the entire book. I mean, there's no spoiler alert necessary for that. But yeah, some of the dialogue is a little funny. You get like that. There's books I've done that have been really well written, but just have kind of oddities about them, and you got to kind of read the manuscript. You can't take a whole lot of liberties with this. Yeah, so I don't know why today's a little rough. I had last couple nights off of singing, but it just gets like that sometimes. Might be the weather. I never know. All right. There's only 4 people watching? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. But thank you very much for checking in. Hope you enjoyed it. This will be posted later, and you know where to find me on YouTube. So next Thursday, 9 a.m., will be the live music. So check that out, and we'll see you.